All right, we're on air. Today is Thursday, February 28th, and this is a meeting to check in on design and usability tasks for Backdrop. On our to-do list today is to talk about backdropcms.org, our main website, which sadly has not been getting as much progress as I would like for it. Our two main issues are to improve the process of looking for module themes and layouts, and to set up our demo site so that we have individual tugboat instances for people instead of sending them to the Pantheon page. I believe both those tasks are stuck. The module themes layout search page is stuck with a search issue that Nate posted a patch for, or a pull request that I need to test, or anyone can test, I suppose. And then Sandbox demo, I think, is having an issue with the tugboat API key or service key or something like that. And Nate said he generated a new one and the new one isn't working. But in generating a new one, he made the old one not work. So reverting the commit, which was my original plan last week, is not going to fix the problem, because we know that key doesn't work either. So we need to get another new one, which I don't know how to do. And I don't know if I have access to it or not. So I think we actually need Nate to generate a new key for us. And then I think he canceled the first one because it got committed into the repository. So he knew he didn't want that one to work anymore. So now we've got it like set up in a way that's secure, but we need a new key that's not committed into the repository. That'll work. So those are both stuck. I know Drupal sent out an email earlier this week notifying everybody of Drupal 7's end of life. And based on what's been happening with the Backdrop Twitter account, the Backdrop email form on the main website, a flurry of activity in the forum, it looks like a whole bunch of people sort of had a little mini panic attack about Drupal 7 end of life coming, and all of a sudden searched and found Backdrop. So number one, I think that's great because they found us. But number two, it does sort of put a little pressure on us doing a better job at paying attention to like backdropcms.org and the forum and all of these other things that we're working on. So I would love it if anybody wanted to sort of help change gears and focus on some of this like public facing stuff, which I think is really important right now. And I expect that right now, people are panicking a little bit, and then they'll calm down when they're like, oh, I've got until like 2021, it'll be okay. And then as we approach 2021, it'll like ramp up again as people start to get more worried about like, oh no, I haven't done the things, whatever. So anything we can do like this week to make that process, or any of the like, I don't know, people exploring for options better, would be great. So that's just what I want to say. And I'm also saying that out loud because I'm hoping that'll motivate me to do a better job on that. I have a software website soft deliverable tomorrow, but I'm hoping that once that's gone, I'll be able to sort of refocus a lot of my effort onto backdropcms.org and help move these things forward.
Can I just interrupt quick? Because that matches the thing I think I brought up last week on the outreach meeting was I've been trying to find a week where I could like focus on the forum, which is a public facing thing, and it's the same thing to address usability issues. I think we've had a number of there's some low-hanging fruit in terms of on the forum, just using different terms for the same thing. And so yeah, if we were to dedicate a day or a week, that would help me get focused as well. But so I'll just throw that out. The other thing is, in this flurry of activity, I've noticed that too, and I feel like one of the things we could do is do something more on migrations, right? That seems to be a lot of questions about. So we had talked about what the next topic for the next virtual user group would be, and I'm feeling like right now the timing is perfect for migrating or upgrading from Drupal 7, and to do something like that fairly quickly. So
okay,
I'm going to work on that.
Okay.
Olaf also mentioned that he was doing a migration and he faced some problems. He finally sorted it out by removing certain modules from the migration, from the D7 side. And he pointed out that we need to update the documentation, and specifically the guide that we have for the migrations. So on my long to-do list as well is just start, because I have access to many sites, so I can set up my local and it doesn't matter if it is a disaster. At least I'll find out where everybody gets stuck. And my sort of like battle plan was just see which modules that have not been ported to Backdrop or not merged to core yet are the most popular ones that are causing problems, and then see if we can do something about it to smooth things out so that the process is as painless as possible. And the other big thing is that it's something that we touched on the. I didn't attend, but I watched the previous virtual user group meeting, and the mentioning of the paradigm shift between D7 themes and our layout system seems to be a major thing that people need to understand, and I think that most of the work will be done there, porting the themes. Jen, I know that you have more experience in that, so.
Yeah, I was just thinking that might make a fantastic video that would just be like, this is my Drupal 7 theme, this is my Backdrop layout system, this is where I put everything. And that's the kind of thing that it's going to be like half an hour of like code copy pasting, but I think just stepping through it like that, someone could sit down and be like, oh, it's not that bad. And the thing is just not knowing how it's different and how to like wrap your mind around what it is. I think watching through that and being like, oh, this is here and that's here and this is here and this is how it all fits together might be enough to kind of just give people the confidence to be like, I'm going to try it myself and stumble through. Whereas initially you're like, I don't know how any of this like maps to what I know. So yeah, I definitely think that's good. I finally got my how to port a test video done. So the next one on my list, I'm going to make the how to port a theme into layout files, because I think that's something that people run into all the time coming from a Drupal 7 theme. And that would be really helpful.
I was trying to respond to a or comment on a forum on an article that was posted, a related article, and the person was asking, the person that actually, so there was one of us, I can't remember who it was now, that responded to that article and said, hey, you know what, Backdrop is an option. And then the person who wrote the article actually responded back and said, yeah, I was aware of it, but I don't know what the health and the status of the project is currently. And then he mentioned something about documentation and what happens with layouts. So I wrote an extensive response. Unfortunately, it was my first time that I was logging in with Disqus, and then it sort of like got suspended until approval. I need to check back on that. But that got me into a trip of trying to find videos or documentation related to layouts. And I found 3. One was the original implementation, which was a short one, and then there were another 1-hour-long presentations, another 2 of them. But these are dated as well. One is from back in 2016. We still hadn't updated the 7 themes, right? We still have the old D7. Yeah, so it looks a bit, if someone starts watching those videos without testing Backdrop, it will see a dated sort of like, I'm not saying that they're going to be discouraged, but they're not going to see the improvements that we have put in thus far.
Well, we should use that video from this week on Tuesday.
Oh yeah, but yeah, that will help, the video that we've done. And also then I went through the slides that we have for Backdrop. And there's, I think, there's 2 of them, a short one and a long one of what is sort of like the history of it. The one that is longer is a bit outdated, like it still talks about releasing 1.10 or something like that. Scheduling. And I thought that maybe we can consolidate those 2 and have a single, because it would be tricky to be, keeping them up to date, both of them at the same time. But yeah, so things to consider.
We use the short one for the intro, like at the beginning of a training class, and sometimes in our session that we give at Drupal camps. And the reason we have the short one is because we wanted to add the demo at the end. So the longer one hasn't been used since before we started doing the demo. But we've now, like the shorter presentation, we originally were like, let's take the big presentation and cut it in half, and then we can add a demo. But now we have like been adding so much stuff that like both of those are getting longer, to the point where we now have like 2 sessions where we have a demo session and a philosophy session. So at this point, it might make sense to like just throw out the old philosophy session essentially, because it's been replaced with a newer one with all new stuff, and they're about the same length. Like it's not actually much shorter anymore. And I know that those 2 are still getting updated. And then now we have a new session called like Backdrop Past and Future or something, which was the talk that Nate wrote for Bad Camp last year, that just talks about all of the stuff that went into every major release so far, and then what we're planning and what's coming. And I think that that is also like a much better talk than the previous one we had anyway. So it might just be worth like removing that set of slides from the public repository, or maybe like making an archive folder or something where we're like, we know this is out of date, but in case anyone needs any of those assets, they're still there.
Yeah, it feels like the past and future thing is sort of like an extended version of our roadmap combined with the blogs that we write each time with a release, because it actually showcases the features.
Yeah.
And then I've noticed that the major difference between the long and the short version of the Backdrop, the most used ones, are that the longer one has an extensive section at the beginning explaining why Backdrop, why the fork.
And that was really only necessary before Drupal 8 came out. Now everybody sort of gets it, and so I don't think we need to talk about that so much.
Maybe we can make a separate slideshow specifically for that. And then if someone wants to do the long version, they can start doing that presentation and then jump to the other slideshow instead of having 2 versions of the stories. But yeah.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
All right. I want to help with all those things, by the way, but I have volunteered to do so many things that I...
Your list is probably longer than mine.
So I think that we need to, like, I think it's equal. We're going to say equally at least important with the security updates and something that is to be discussed at the next meeting, the dev meeting. I think it's high time for that contrib squad thing, so that we can better, So that's one, and then we have translations as well. So as far as I know, I'm the only sort of like active member of the community that is in the Greek, sort of like speaks Greek. So that's another thing in the to-do list, the translation. Anyways, lots of things to do.
There's another thing I was thinking. Oh, you mentioned you wrote a really extensive like comment. Do you have a copy of that anywhere? Would that be worth like turning into a blog post?
You know what? Yeah. I think I had the page, my profile, my Disqus profile, where it had a padding as such, and I need to make some, after reading it, after having posting it, I couldn't edit it, and I needed to make some edits. I couldn't, so I'll see if this can be done, and I'll find it. I actually have a tab here. Let me see.
Because that might be something like, especially if, you know, everybody needs to know that information, but they haven't found that Disqus thread. Having it somewhere else.
Yeah, for example, I mentioned and I said we had 13 on-time quarterly releases. It's not quarterly, so I need to correct that. And then, before logging in, everything that I typed and it was a link to a video or anything was just put in bulk there. So I need to fix it up, because once you register, then you have formatting options. So I need to fix that up when it gets published, or as soon as I have access to it. But I think I can convert that into a blog post. It's just a copy and paste.
That'd be great, and that might be a good use of repurposing something that already exists. You wouldn't have to write anything.
Yeah, it sort of starts because the person, I can't remember. I do have the question. Actually, it might be worth reading that shortly. The original question. What was it? Hold on a sec. Things are loading. My computer decided. So yeah, so it was Tim that of course who mentioned Backdrop there, and then the guy goes, thanks Tim. I haven't heard much from Backdrop recently, and to be honest, I haven't much of a clue about the state and the health of the project. So I had to do the whole thing. Remember how we, in the previous dev meetings, in the first dev meetings that we had this community status thing where we would have stats. So I've done that again, tried to find all the documentation of where we find things, like how many users are registered in b.org, how many are in the forum, which is something that I've included. So at the end, I was like, if this helps, here's a list of some statistics, like how many modules have imported, things like that, how many downloads the project has had. So maybe it's worth it, but the way that I started is like, we have been really busy for the last 4 or 5 years. And I explain all the changes and I point to our roadmap. So it might be, yeah, I think it's a good candidate for.
That sounds fantastic. I want to read it. All right, so backdropcms.org needs love. We're going to work on it and other stuff. Backdrop the project, we have a couple of design issues and a couple of usability issues that we've highlighted. In particular, things that are scheduled for Backdrop 1.13.
13, yeah.
Like, how come I'm forgetting what number comes next?
Yeah, that's
including the dashboard, which is something I'm really excited about because I wrote a dashboard for Drupal, and I would love to have one in Backdrop. That's issue number 495. There is a pull request there that anyone can test and try and make sure we have all the stuff that would be valuable. And if there's anything missing, we have a list there of like nice to have wish list items. But I think as it is now, it's sort of ready to go in, and anything else we add would be icing on the cake.
Yeah, I see how GitHub has, when you haven't read something, it marks it with a little blue thing that it's unread. I'm scared to go there because I know I'm going to have a huge feedback and I'm going to just dive into it. But the good thing with this issue is that, as you said, and we mentioned this before, it can go in as is. We can sort of like iterate and add blocks because it's based on blocks and stuff like that. So we can improve. It will be even at the status that the pull request was. A couple of months when I last checked it, it was way better than what we have now. We just redirect people to the profile edit page, which most of the sites is like nothing.
Yeah,
nothing.
Next one is adding save draft module in core 3157. Is the name of that issue, a number for that issue, and that just sort of reorganizes the node form to make more sense for people. So I think that's a good issue to focus on for getting into the next version. And then the only other one we have highlighted in this list is getting promoted modules onto the installer. So this is sort of a 3-part thing where we have the ability on the site to promote the modules. We need to update the project module to pass that information along to the software. And then we need to update the software to sort correctly and then format that information on the page. So we need to figure out which one of those goes in which order. I think right now we have yet to update the project feed from backdropcms.org, and so we can't really do any work on the incoming display of that data until we have data to display or order or whatever we're going to do.
If someone like Nate pointed out to what sort of like which files, which functions, what needs to be changed, maybe I can have a look.
Doc Wilma also is really familiar with the project installer because he did a bunch of work recently to add the images and stuff from modules and themes and layouts for the slideshow. And there's a bunch of other information like the tags for module stuff. He put a bunch of stuff in there. So I think he's pretty familiar with it. If you ping me after this, we could probably step through it together. I haven't looked at it recently, but I feel like I did some work on it a while ago, and I could probably tell you like which file and which function if I read it. I don't know off the top of my head, but we can try that.
Or I can take a look at the pull request for the tags, as you said, and I'll get an idea if anything else fails, or ping someone at Gitter.
Yeah.
Like Doc Wilmot, for example.
And then those are the only issues I've sort of highlighted for usability changes for 1.3. But there are a bunch of other issues tagged with UX in the issue title, which would be good candidates. Some of them are little things that could go in as bug fixes at any time. Some of them are bigger feature request asks, and those are scheduled for major milestones. So there's a bunch of those that we could get in between now and 1.3, whether they're in 1.3 or 1.12 dot whatever comes next. Design-wise, we have two major issues. One of them is adding predefined color schemes to basis. That one, I think since our last design meeting, has had all of its color combinations run through an accessibility checker, but we've ran into a couple of issues where we use the same color in two different places, like maybe for a background color and for a text color. And in those instances, it's really hard to get the contrast correct for both cases. And so the original suggestion was we add more colors, but I had an idea after we talked about that, which I'm not sure if I put this in the issue or not, where we could do a darkening or lightening with CSS in the places where that color contrast isn't high enough. So if we had instances where one of our color palettes had, like a text color that wasn't dark enough, we could use a CSS thing to like lighten the background behind it, just for that one particular color set. So I don't know exactly how this is going to fit with the color find and replace pattern thing we have going on, but I think there might be some way where we could figure out where those instances are and see if that color scheme might, like maybe if we added that darkening, it would help all of them, sort of thing. Or we could have some kind of like flip between, like in one color scheme it needs to darken and the next color scheme needs to lighten, and then we use the same trick but we either darken or lighten. So I'd need to see some exact like actual code and try it and see if this theory will hold up. But I had this idea that like maybe we don't need more colors. Maybe we can just use like transparent adjustments of things. So I'll give it a try. See if it's going to be any good. It might be a terrible idea. I don't know yet. And then
I was going through the tickets, just trying to find there's some old ones that are sort of like my favorites. They're always like elusives. I start work on them and then I get stuck or they get forgotten. There's one that you sort of like filed, and then I have a pull request for it, which is related to the migrations as well. And it had to do with the listing of the fields. See how when you migrated fields that they all had the same name and you couldn't figure out what was what? So we added, I'll try to find it. But my point was that, see how we decided to remove milestones from issues? It's a good way to clean the queue, but it's also a good way for things that are sort of like almost done to get lost, forgotten.
So I think most of the almost done things, like anything that had a pull request should have stayed. Yeah. At least it was a bug fix issue. If it was a major milestone, then it might not have. Well, that might have been a mistake on that issue, because it should be anything that has a pull request can get bumped into a particular bug fix milestone if it's a bug fix.
So that was one that I'll try to find the ticket number, but it's irrelevant because I don't want to promote specific tickets. But that was an example. Like when I was going through all tickets, I noticed that there are a lot of sort of like half-done ones.
And then the other issue that's on this list currently was the design and theme maintenance page issue. And I filed a super simple pull request that just like centers the text on that page and adds a font or something, background color maybe. And I thought maybe that change was simple enough that it might qualify as a change that would be suitable for a bug fix release. And then if we do want to actually add a real design to that page and sort of make it more fun, we could do that for the minor release. So I think I need a core committer to weigh in on whether adding some CSS to that page counts as a bug fix or not. It seemed trivial to me in terms of its implementation, but I'm not sure about ramifications of sites that may have already styled that page, if this would conflict with that in any way that might be negative or not. And that's all I had for design-related issues for the next version of Backdrop, but there is a tag, I think it's just called the design now. Yeah, if you're interested in design-focused issues, there's a tag you can search in the issue queue for anything with design. And then let's see, we have a couple of print design-related items. If anyone isn't interested in designing things for web, but isn't interested in designing things for print, we've talked about getting a pop-up banner made for events where Backdrop might be featured. We've also talked about getting a little sticker that might play nicely with that glowing icon on the back of an Apple computer, which could be fun. And then I think there was something else we talked about, like if somebody wanted to do something crazy with the dragons for t-shirts or I don't know what, for distributing at different points around the world, that would also be something that we could use help with.
So one thing that came up was when we were talking about the maintenance page was some like a picture of the dragon digging a ditch or you know, doing maintenance. Do we have anybody like a designated artist that works with the mascot that we
so
could
we have the guy we originally hired. We haven't contacted him in a few years, but we did hire someone to originally draw the dragon for us. We're like, we want a dragon, and then he drew us a dragon, and we're like, no, we want a lap dragon. It needs to have like paws, not claws. And then we had several iterations, and that's how we ended up with Drop. He gave us one, and we're like, it's perfect. And then we got the dragon, and then we liked it so much we went back to him like a year later, and we're like, can you put the dragon in other poses? And so we have like now the sleeping dragon and the back dragon, when it's on like the back of the hoodie. And he gave us a bunch of other poses we weren't super thrilled with. So he's like, here's a bunch, pick a direction. We're like, we like these ones. But I think kind of the point of the dragon is that we wanted it to be for everybody. We just had some like, we need a bunch of stuff to start with. And so now, like, we could definitely go back to him and ask for more if we wanted more dragons. He would probably be more than happy to make them for us. But I would love it if we could take this dragon and give it to someone else and be like, this dragon's for the community to play with. Like, what do you want to see the dragon doing? Like, is he big enough to fly yet? Or maybe it's like sitting on a nest with eggs in it or something. I don't know. Like, there's definitely other things the dragon could be doing that I haven't thought of that maybe a designer would have fun with. So I would totally be fine with working with anyone who wanted to play with dragons.
Yeah, I've been exploring this a little bit because I have a couple of relatives that are dragon aficionados and artists that I've been trying to figure out how to sort of move them towards it. And I think what's necessary. I don't think we quite have this, and I don't know what's involved in getting it, but we need sort of like a design library for it, like not poses, but just kind of like the specifications for Drop, like almost like architectural renderings of like, this is what the wings are shaped like, this is what the claws are shaped like, this is what his head looks like from the front, from the side, from the top, this is how long it is, just to like
that stuff we don't know yet. That's going to be like up to whichever designer wants to draw. I don't know what his head looks like from the top. But yeah,
I can help with the less ambitious ideas. I can't design his lifespan, but I'm happy to do some of the maintenance page work and things like that if you guys want.
No, well, I've actually been through exactly this like years and years and years ago. I promoted a band in college, and once I had a friend of the band, draw a poster for it, and she drew this really cool rat. So I digitized the rat in Illustrator, and then made like dozens of posters that were transformations of the same rat. Like I had some shapes from its nose and stuff that I would use, but I would like copy something and then add stuff in it. And this seems like what we would do with this, except that the way Drop looks is way more amenable to this than the thing that I started with, which was very like kind of organic-y and weird. Like Drop is pretty geometric. So it's one of those things that it's like a rock band logo.
I've seen a really good example of this is with what's the name of the company that makes PHP Storm?
What are they?
Intellisys?
Something?
Anyway, they have a fantastic logo spec where they're like, these are the colors you use. This is the direction the stripes point. You can put a box around it, but it can't be very close. The lines need to be like this in this proportion to each other. But it's sort of a like very loose guide of like, as long as you have 4 lines in these colors, you're fine. And I think that we could do something really similar with the dragon, where it'd be like, the dragon has a dished face, he has paws, not claws, his wings are, you know, this size or whatever, and then be like, beyond that, it can come in any color, it can be in any pose, it can, you know, please don't draw it like peeing on logos, but whatever. It could just be whatever you want it to be.
Well, I think constraints like that are very freeing, because if you don't have those, then you imagine way more restrictive stuff than what you do, and you don't feel the license to extend it. So if we could really kind of nail down the stuff that you can't do, people,
JetBrains has great specs. I think we could do that.
We do have a kit, sort of like a press kit. Luke, are you familiar with that?
I've seen it. Yeah.
Okay. Sorry, go ahead, Mike.
Do we have? I don't know if I have the vector drawings of the initial drop. Do we have them posted somewhere?
Of the initial drop, I think they're in a backdrop Dropbox somewhere. They're not in the press kit, and they're not easy to find. So I think we should put that somewhere too. Like here are the files we have now. If you want to start with these.
Yeah, they're on GitHub, but I forget actually what the path is to get to them. I mean, they're somewhere in a zip file in the.
Probably the backup.org queue somewhere.
Like they're on my hard disk now that I found them once. But there's not a lot of them. I mean, there's like 3 Illustrator files, I think.
I think that's right.
All right.
Okay, fantastic. I'm gonna put that on my to-do list. Anyone has any desire to do it, or maybe we should make an issue in the queue. That would be better, and then that way we can post whatever we have and figure out where to put it and all that good stuff. Dragon specs
related to media and press kits and stuff like that. Again, I happened to come across one of the old meetings back in 2016 where we have printed business cards. What happened with that?
We have a design somewhere. I think Wes made it for us, but
I think that what Nate said was it was the quality of the print after all that sort of like put a stop to it because it wasn't that good.
I think he ordered like a sample set from Vistaprint, but there was something like super crappy about it was either like the card stock or the way the ink bled on it or something, where it's like half the card was black and half of it was white, but the black half like rubbed off on the card next to it. So you get these like spots of white in your black half. And so it was just not a good, and part of that might have been because it was like Vistaprint, right? Where if you took it to a local printer, they'd do a much better job. We were hoping for something that would be really easy, where you could just be like, anyone, put whatever you want on this card, print it, have it sent to you. So we have those designs, but we recommend you not use Vistaprint for that.
I thought, now that I remember, that these were for the members of the PMC, but no one stops anyone, like if they want to be sort of like backdrop advocates and they go to official events and they don't have people like myself that don't have a professional card themselves to hand out, they can use those.
Yeah. I'm running out of my own personal cards, so I might be motivated to solve that problem here pretty quickly before DrupalCon.
Okay, I've added it on the list of the stickers.
Great.
Oh, stickers? Are you referring to because again, that was another task list. It was stickers for the back of the,
And we could do more stickers anyway. Like stickers are pretty easy. And those are the kind of things we can also have printed and delivered to anyone, anywhere pretty quickly. So if people want to do more things with stickers, that's also an option. All right, well, that's it for the agenda. Anything open Q&A we should talk about, design and usability related or not?
Well, this could be design and usability related. In terms of upcoming events at MidCamp, you're going to be there. Is Nate coming too, both of you?
Yes.
Okay. Are you going to stick around for a sprint day?
Yes.
Because thinking in advance, like to sprint, we just talked about the backdrop.org or design issues. I think Wes is going to be there.
Yes.
Figure out if Wes, I think from my talks with Wes at Florida camp, I think, if he had the time, if he still wants to help with some stuff, and that might be a good day to corner him.
You should hold him hostage during sprint day.
Well, that's what he was busy working on something else. Although we had some backdrop discussions on sprint day. But I was thinking if we got that on his agenda, we'd have 4 or 5 of us there at MidCamp, and we could, and if we publicized what we were going to work on, we might actually attract somebody else.
Yeah, and it's a fantastic idea. I don't think, I'll check and see when we're leaving. I'm also not entirely sure we have flights yet, so that would be good. We could coordinate around that.
Sure.
I think in MidCamp, isn't sprint day on Saturday anyway?
It is, yes.
Yeah, so we can fly home on Sunday, so we'll just devote the whole day to sprint day.
Yeah, they in the past it would have been on Sunday, but they shifted their schedule.
Yeah. Okay, I think that's great. Great idea. And I also think it would be good if we picked something to sprint on, like backdropcms.org would be a good one. Also, forum, like just by itself, might be a good one. So we'll just take a look at what all of our issues are. I know one of the things that's like sort of been itching in the back of my mind lately is figuring out our like single sign-on solution, especially now that we have people who are signing up for the forum. There's like some confusion. They're like, I created an account on backdropcms.org, but I can't log into the forum. And I'm like, oh, we really need to fix that. So yeah, just trying to figure out that whole workflow, I think would be really good. And if we have a bunch of people there to try it, test it, make sure it works, that would be really good too. So, all right. Anything else related? Otherwise, we can wrap this meeting, and we have another meeting, 15 minutes, to talk about other fun things like spam.
Like what?
Spam.
What's spam? We have spam?
Yes.
I hate spam.
All right. Well, thanks everybody for coming to this meeting. We will see you guys again in just under 15 minutes.
Yep.
See you there.
Bye-bye.